Today, Sufism is a name without a reality, but formerly it was a reality without a name. This observation comes from a master named Fushanji, writing in 1071 CE. Al-Hujwiri quotes him in chapter 3 of the Kashf al-Mahjub. In the time of the companions and the ancients, this name did not exist, but the reality of the name was in everyone. Now the name exists, but not the reality. That is to say, formerly the practice was known and the pretense unknown, but nowadays the pretense is known and the practice unknown. Al-Hujwiri completed the Kashf al-Mahjub in Lahore as the oldest surviving Persian treatise on mysticism. He had traveled extensively across the Islamic world, studying under masters who preserved oral traditions stretching back centuries. His systematic investigation into authentic spiritual development provides insights that remain relevant precisely because he documented patterns of human behavior rather than cultural phenomena. He observed his own era. In this age, however, God has veiled most people from Sufism and from its votaries, and has concealed its mysteries from their hearts. Accordingly, some imagine that it consists merely in the practice of outward piety without inward contemplation, and others suppose that it is a form and a system without essence and root. If Al-Hujwiri found only a name without a reality in the golden age of Islamic civilization, his analysis offers crucial guidance for contemporary seekers navigating similar challenges. Al-Hujwiri begins by dismissing popular explanations for the term Sufi. Some claimed it derived from wearing wool, suf, others from being in the first rank, saf. Still others from the people of the bench, Ashab al-Sufa, who lived in poverty at the Prophet's mosque. He systematically refutes each etymology. These explanations of the true meaning of Sufism are far from satisfying the requirements of etymology, although each of them is supported by many subtle arguments. His conclusion reveals something profound about the nature of authentic spiritual development. The dignity of the Sufis is too great for their transactions to be hidden, so that their name should need a derivation. This represents Al-Hujwiri's first diagnostic principle. Authentic spiritual development transcends linguistic categories. The reality comes first, the name follows. When institutions focus more on preserving terminology than cultivating the underlying reality, corruption has already begun. Al-Hujwiri grounds his analysis in the concept of purity, safa, but not the superficial cleanliness most people imagine. He writes, "Purity has a root and a branch, its root being severance of the heart from others, and its branch that the heart should be empty of this deceitful world." This creates his fundamental diagnostic. The true Sufi is he that leaves impurity behind. But he immediately clarifies that human effort cannot achieve this purification. Purity is not one of the qualities of man, for man is clay, and clay involves impurity, and man cannot escape from impurity. The paradox becomes central to his analysis. Authentic spiritual development requires purification that human beings cannot accomplish through personal effort. This eliminates most contemporary approaches that position spiritual practices as self-improvement techniques. The transformation occurs through exposure to something beyond human category, rather than through human effort to improve themselves. Al-Hujwiri provides precise classifications for different levels of spiritual involvement. The Sufi is he that is dead to self and living by the truth. He has escaped from the grip of human faculties and has really attained. The Mutasawwif is he that seeks to reach this rank by means of self-mortification, and in his search rectifies his conduct in accordance with their example. The Mustaswif is he that makes himself like them for the sake of money and wealth and power and worldly advantage, but has no knowledge of these two things. This classification system operates as quality control. The Sufi represents authentic realization, someone transformed rather than someone performing spiritual activities. The Mutasawwif represents genuine seeking, someone actually working toward transformation rather than collecting spiritual experiences. The Mustaswif represents spiritual fraud, someone using spiritual appearances for personal gain. Al-Hujwiri notes, the Mustaswif, in the opinion of the Sufis, is as despicable as flies, and his actions are mere cupidity. Others regard him as being like a wolf, and his speech unbridled, for he only desires a morsel of carrion. Contemporary spiritual marketplaces are filled with Mustaswifs, teachers who use spiritual authority for financial gain, status, or psychological gratification, rather than serving students' actual development. Al-Hujwiri documents specific behavioral markers for authentic development through the masters he studied. Dhul Nun provides the behavioral test. The Sufi is he whose language, when he speaks, is the reality of his state, i.e., he says nothing which he is not, and when he is silent, his conduct explains his state. This creates a clear diagnostic. Authentic spiritual development produces consistency between inner state and outer behavior. Someone claiming advanced realization, while displaying behavior that contradicts their teaching, reveals the superficiality of their attainment. Sufism is an attribute, wherein is man's subsistence. Its essence is an attribute of God, and its formal system is an attribute of mankind. Genuine spiritual work produces divine qualities, manifesting through human behavior rather than human qualities, being improved through spiritual practice. Abul Hasan Nuri provides the renunciation test. Sufism is the renunciation of all selfish pleasures. But he clarifies the distinction between formal and essential renunciation. If one renounces a pleasure and finds pleasure in the renunciation, this is formal renunciation. But if the pleasure renounces him, then the pleasure is annihilated. Authentic development involves transformation happening to the practitioner rather than the practitioner accomplishing transformation through personal effort. Al-Hujwiri records Nuri's definition. The Sufi is he that has nothing in his possession, nor is himself possessed by anything. This describes what he calls complete annihilation, a state where ordinary subject-object relationships dissolve. He explains, the term possession can properly be applied only to existent things. The meaning is that the Sufi does not make his own any good of this world or any glory of the next world, for he is not even in the possession and control of himself. This represents the ultimate diagnostic for authentic spiritual development. Someone who has genuinely developed ceases to operate from the assumption of independent selfhood that characterizes ordinary consciousness. Muhammad ibn Ali provides the character test. Sufism is goodness of disposition. He that has the better disposition is the better Sufi. But Al-Hujwiri clarifies that this goodness operates on two levels, towards God and towards men. The former is acquiescence in the divine decrees, the latter is endurance of the burden of men's society for God's sake. Abu Hafs Haddad provides systematic guidance. Sufism consists entirely of behavior. Every time, place, and circumstance have their own propriety. He that observes the proprieties of each occasion attains to the rank of holy men. This creates practical assessment criteria. Authentic teachers demonstrate heightened rather than diminished sensitivity to appropriate conduct. They become more rather than less careful about how their behavior affects others. Al-Hujwiri contrasts this with formalism. Practices are ceremonial actions proceeding from certain motives, actions devoid of reality, so that their form is at variance with their spirit. Whereas morals are praiseworthy actions without ceremony or motive, actions devoid of pretension, so that their form is in harmony with their spirit. The difference between authentic and counterfeit spiritual development appears in the relationship between inner state and outer behavior. Authentic development produces natural goodness rather than performed spirituality. Murta-ish provides a warning that remains relevant. This religion of Sufism is wholly earnest, therefore do not mix jest with it. Al-Hujwiri expands, when the people see these formalists among the aspirants to Sufism in our time and become aware of their dancing and singing and visiting the court of sultans and quarreling for the sake of a pittance or a mouthful of food, their belief in the whole body of Sufis is corrupted. He identifies the source of corruption. You must know that the evil lies in the men who hold the doctrines, not in the principles on which the doctrines are based. The authentic principles remain valid despite being misrepresented by counterfeit practitioners. Al-Hujwiri's analysis suggests that spiritual corruption follows predictable patterns. Teachers begin seeking comfort, status, or financial advantage rather than serving student development. Students become focused on experiences rather than character transformation. Communities develop around personality rather than principle. Al-Hujwiri identifies Abu Bakr as the exemplar of authentic spiritual development. When Muhammad died and Umar threatened to kill anyone claiming the Prophet was dead, Abu Bakr stepped forth and cried with a loud voice, "Whoever worships Muhammad, let him know that Muhammad is dead. But whoever worships Muhammad's Lord, let him know that he is living and dieth not." This demonstrates the core principle. Those who regarded Muhammad with the eye of mortality ceased to venerate him as soon as he departed from this world. But to those who regarded him with the eye of reality, his presence and absence were alike, because they attributed both to God. Abu Bakr also demonstrated material detachment. He gave away all his wealth and his clients and clad himself in a woolen garment and came to the apostle, who asked him what he had left for his family. Abu Bakr replied, "Only God and his apostle." The Abu Bakr standard provides concrete criteria for evaluating spiritual claims. Authentic development produces clarity in crisis, detachment from material security, and recognition that all phenomena point beyond themselves to their source. Al-Hujwiri's systematic analysis provides tools for navigating contemporary spiritual claims. His behavioral diagnostics work because they focus on observable patterns rather than reported experiences or theoretical positions. The consistency test. Does the teacher's behavior match their teaching across different contexts and conditions? Do they maintain the same standards privately that they promote publicly? The direction test. Does the flow of energy, attention, and resources move towards serving student development or towards serving teacher needs? Do students become more autonomous or more dependent over time? The transformation test. Do people working with this teacher demonstrate measurable character development rather than just accumulated experiences or refined spiritual language? The reality test. Does the teaching produce practical wisdom for handling life's challenges, or does it create dependence on special spiritual conditions and communities? Al-Hujwiri's analysis remains relevant because it addresses permanent features of human psychology rather than cultural conditions. The same tendencies that produced spiritual corruption in 11th century Persia continue to operate in contemporary contexts. His systematic approach offers protection for sincere seekers while preserving respect for authentic spiritual development. The Kashf al-Mahjub represents both warning and encouragement. Warning about the prevalence of counterfeit spirituality, encouragement that authentic development remains possible for those who understand the criteria. His detailed documentation ensures that those criteria remain available for contemporary seekers who value genuine transformation over spiritual entertainment.